After the race of Argentina, yet another 4-week break before the racing resumes in Sonoma, and another chance to catch up with some of the grid and find out how their season's been going. For the LADA Sport team, James, can you sum it up in a positive fashion? Has there been parts of it that have been good so far?
Yeah, I mean, overall, if you look at it, it's been very, very positive. I mean, before the season started, you know, people wondering where we'd be. Would we be at the back? You know, I mean, if you look at the results historically, LADA's not featured at the front of the grid, and so I'm very pleased and very proud of what we've achieved. Whilst we've had some low points, I guess the start of the season when we didn't, obviously with the accidents that happened, and not starting the first 2 races despite being very quick and in the top 5 in the free practices, that was very disappointing, because you have to strike while the iron's hot. You know, the championship is so competitive that when your car's competitive, you really must make the most of it. It's been a very tough learning year, and with a new car and everything evolving, literally testing at the race meetings, it has been a roller coaster. But at the end of the day, we're fighting against you know, Seat and Chevrolet, BMW, Honda. You know, and Seat and Chevrolet have won world championships with the cars here. So it's the grid is so competitive that I think that we've topped some of the sessions. We've been in the top 10 for most of them, and we've made qualifying 2 for most of the qualifying. So I think overall, I'm happy. I'm disappointed that we haven't finished more races, but that is racing. When you're in that middle of the grid and you see the touring car racing, you know, that's what happens. That's what's so alluring for people watching and people involved. But of course, it's a natural thing for the team and for yourself. Your expectations grow with each result. So of course, when you have 5th place at Moscow or 2 6th places in Porto, then naturally you think, okay, next race weekend, you know, you want to keep improving. And so sometimes you have to just take a step back and say, right, okay, they were good races, and now we'll try and focus on the next one and treat it as a totally new event.
In terms of the pace, we've seen, especially in the warm-up sessions, you've topped some of the warm-up sessions, and as you mentioned, you've had a couple of point-scoring places throughout weekends. Do you feel like the pace then is actually in the car once it's fully reliable?
Well, the car's been very reliable. We haven't retired from any races apart from this weekend with any failures. It's been fantastic. It's just been racing accidents, unfortunately. You know, the reality of it is that the pace is developing. It's the first year with a brand new car compared to proven packages down the grid. I mean, you look at Honda; they have 3 cars. They did a massive amount of mileage for the start of the season. You know, we did some testing, but you know, we are learning. You know, as we go, and so the pace is there. And of course, each race weekend, particularly the long haul events where we get the extra test session, are very important for us. And I think that with regard to the warm-up, I think it shows that through the weekend we improved the car to the point where the warm-up actually is our best session, usually because we have the best car at that point. But if you start mid-grid, then you risk the racing accident situation, or you know, unfortunate accident, shall we say. So the truth of the matter is, we need more testing, we need more time, but of course now the cars are away for the long haul section of the year, it's very difficult. But we will be testing in Magny-Cours with a view to, you know, evolving things for the later races and indeed for next year.
You talk about next year, and obviously it's going to be a massive rule change overhaul. When do LADA have confirmed they're going to be with a car, or at least 2 cars? When does the focus switch from making sure this year's car is competitive to making sure next year's car is within the regulations and really good? In Formula One, you hear people changing their focus mid-season around now. Is that something that LADA can sort of thinking about?
Not really. Yes, it's going to be the new regulations, but the fact of the matter is we need to find the best way to work with the. You know, it's very different situation now coming into the championship with a turbo engine, the way front-wheel drive, you know, putting the amount of power that we have through the front wheels and making it last the race distance, and it's very difficult. And of course, you know, bearing in mind, Chevrolet have had 9 years. It's our first full year, so it does take time, and so you have to temper ambition with a little bit of patience. And a lot of the things that we learn this year, how to manage the car in each situation, will be a natural evolution of the geometry and suspension package we have now for next year. Obviously the rules are a little bit freer, which to be honest for us helps a great deal, because you know, our car, our LADA is, if you imagine our starting point, you know, in comparison to, shall we say, a BMW, even though obviously is a little bit different geometry-wise, and so we have to work a little bit harder to get to the front of the grid with our starting point.